for those who are joining, we are going to be talking about a very interesting topic, which is resilience in broad terms. Of course, we'll go deeper into that because I think it's not just interesting, it's actually an important topic to every single person. We all have moments in our life when we need this superpower. So Amberly is a peak performance coach, TEDx speaker, podcaster, and leading expert in the field of resilience and transformation. She's the best-selling author of True Grit and Grace and the founder of Unstoppable Life Mastermind. Through her book coaching methods and masterminds, she has created unique tools to teach others how to tap into their superpower of resilience and elevate their lives and businesses. Amberly creates a resilient company culture, empowers employees to collaborate and connect, shows them how to see things with fresh eyes, and shares how you can bounce forward and work smarter, not harder. I really like this part, actually. We should touch upon that if we get a chance. Emily shows you how to create an advantage out of your adversity and thrive, not just survive. She builds grit, inspires hope, fuels passion, and uncovers your superpower of resilience. Amberly has most recently been featured on NBC's The Today Show, The Doctor's Hallmark, and featured in magazines such as Shape, Fit Pregnancy, Yahoo, Health Magazine, Keynote Speaker Magazine, and Disability Magazine. So the official part.
That was a lot, right?
No, it's, you know what, it's not. I think we sometimes don't take enough time to appreciate the story, the journey. So I think it's not a lot. It's a minute, and it's absolutely worth it. So, Amberly, I know it's maybe a very broad question, or maybe a little bit too far off, but you do have a very interesting story. So I hope you don't mind if I ask you to just share your story with the people who are joining us right now, and yeah, your PhD in resilience.
Yeah, well, you know what? Thank you. As you're reading my bio, I'm thinking, yeah, it's been a journey for sure. And I've only learned so much about resilience because I have failed. I've hit rock bottom a few times. I've had to start over. I've lost everything, my business. And I learned about resilience, I would think, the most. Well, every day, because it's not something that I think that we learn and then we have it and we're all good. It's like I work on practicing and building it every day. But 11 years ago, my life was good. I thought, wow, I'm living the California dream. Finally, I've worked hard. I have this successful business, 2 healthy daughters, finally have the man of my dreams after 2 failed marriages. And it all changed in the blink of an eye. When I was coming home from work, I was on my Harley, riding down Ventura Boulevard, and I had this SUV shoot out of a parking lot. I tried to jump off my bike, let go of the clutch, and I thought to myself, I can't believe this is happening. I was hit, thrown 30 feet, and then I was sliding across the asphalt. And all I could think as I'm sliding is just, please don't let another car hit me. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg and it was just crumbled into pieces. And what's crazy is one of my first thoughts was, of course, there was immediate pain. One of my first thoughts was, oh, this can't be good. I might have to train clients on crutches for a while. So I was already thinking like, okay, I'm in the street. How am I going to continue, training clients? I was doing fitness videos, nationally recognized as a coach. And now I'm in the street with my leg crumbled into pieces. I did not realize just how much this was going to just change my life completely. Luckily, there was a complete stranger who made a tourniquet on my leg. I did not know that my femoral artery was severed, and you can bleed out pretty fast, I think within minutes. Paramedics happened to be right down the street at a coffee shop. They got there quickly. I got transferred to the hospital, or taken to the hospital, and I was literally dying. I'd lost so much blood. They couldn't control my pain, and they put me in induced coma. And as I woke up from a coma, it wasn't one of these kind of Hallmark movies where you slowly open your eyes. I don't know if anybody who's here listening today has been in a coma, but I don't recommend it. I mean, you've got tubes in your throat. I was trying to rip these tubes out, and the nurse was like, "Oh, honey, don't do that. Don't do that. Get her a pad and a piece, a pen. I think she's trying to say something." And the first thing I wrote on the pad was, "Get off my tubes." And my husband was leaning over the bed, cutting my air circulation off. I couldn't breathe. And the next thing I wrote was, "Please don't tell Savannah." That was my oldest daughter. I had no idea I'd been in a coma for over a week. And the next thing they told me was, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. We're going to have to amputate your leg. You've only got a 1% chance of saving it. So the best thing to do is to amputate it." And at that moment, being a professional dancer my whole life, an athlete, my livelihood was my fitness business. My therapy was running. I was like an adrenaline junkie when it came to running the, highest mountains and competing. And I thought, there's no way they can amputate my leg. That's not a choice for me. And I thought, well, you said 1%. That means there's a 1% chance. That means there is a chance. And that was my glimmer of hope. That's what I really held on to, that got me through 34 surgeries, saving my leg. But the real journey began when I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, as a result to the injury. And that's why I say, resilience isn't something that just got me through those moments. I'm still in constant chronic pain. And so resilience is something that I rely on every day to get through pain, to get through, and pain is pain. And some of you might be here going, well, I've never been hit by an SUV. I don't deal with chronic pain. But maybe, you feel like you have that 1% chance of holding on to your business, or maybe you feel like, especially after quarantine, that your marriage has a 1% chance of lasting. And so it's so important. It's critical, if you want to be resilient and if you want to keep moving forward, to choose very carefully what you put your attention on. And all we need is that little glimmer of hope to carry us through. And so it's been a journey, and my intention is to just share anything that I've learned along the way about how to bounce forward, not necessarily wait until things get better or bounce back to how we were, but to bounce forward and be the best version of ourselves every day.
Of course, I have a lot of questions, but one of them is what you've already touched upon, because big dramatic events happen to us maybe a few times through the lifetime. Well, if we're lucky. If we're less lucky, maybe a little more often. So I want to go into everyday life resilience, like the more mundane resilience later. But first, I want to dig deep a little bit into your own story, because you just mentioned the diagnosis that you've been given. And in preparation, I noticed that you said that this diagnosis is called suicidal disease or something like that. Can you tell me more? Is there any philosophy or learning to get from constant pain, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, you know what? I was so happy to be on crutches when I was in the hospital for 3.5 months. And, as a dancer and an athlete, my whole life, I learned a lot about grit and pushing through pain. And I thought, okay, healing is, you eat healthy, you do your best to get enough sleep, you take care of yourself and try to have patience. And then you do all the hard work and you heal and you get better. So I was excited to be upright on crutches. They told me it'd take about 2 years for that to happen. And I was on my way to a doctor's appointment. When I went in, he took one look at me and ran out the door. And I looked at my husband. I thought, well, that's not the reaction I was hoping for. I was kind of hoping he'd say, "Oh my goodness, you're amazing. Look at you. You're upright. You're out of your hospital bed." And he looked at me and he said, "You've got something very serious." And I kind of thought, yeah, I got hit by an SUV. And he said, He said, no, you have complex regional pain syndrome and your life is never going to be the same. He said, are you the kind of person who likes to push through pain? And I kind of thought, well, he can tell I've got a PhD and suck it up. Yeah, here I am. I can push through it. I've got grit. And he said, well, you need to stop. This is very serious. There's no known cure. It's a constant loop of pain. It's when your sympathetic nervous system is all out of whack. So there's a constant loop of pain. I happen to have it in my leg, and thankfully it has not spread to any other parts of my body. But I left there devastated, and I thought, how can this be the rest of my life? He just told me to go back home and get in my wheelchair and keep my leg up. And when I asked how long, he said forever. And I didn't go back home and get in my wheelchair. I have a brother that's been in a wheelchair his whole life. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's just not the vision I had for myself. I wanted to chase after my kids. I wanted to be able to run. I wanted to be able to train clients. And instead I went to physical therapy, and I told him, I said, he goes, you don't have an appointment today. I said, I know I don't, but I just learned something, and I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked before if I want to have the life that I've always imagined. And Christina, I had no idea how hard that was going to be. I mean, this disease, look, 34 surgeries was hard. Dealing with the kind of pain that feels like there's a vice grip on my foot and battery acid running through my veins. Sometimes every day, there's always pain, but sometimes the kind of pain that you can't even have a sock on I can't have a sock on my foot. I can't wear a shoe. 2 weeks ago, I was on crutches again. And so, pain is pain. It doesn't just affect me physically. It also gets to me mentally. There's something when I feel like, oh, I'm back on crutches again, or, oh, I'm not going to be able to get through the day with the 10 clients that I scheduled. And so what I've learned is yes, it takes grit, but it's not so much about pushing through the pain. It's about embracing pain. And that's, I think when any of us are dealing with pain, whether it's emotional pain or financial pain or physical pain, I tried to numb it out. I tried to stuff it down. I tried to keep shoving it down. I didn't want to look at it. I put blinders on. I didn't want anybody else to know I was in pain. I thought they will never understand it. They don't know what I'm going through. But there was also this part of me that was really afraid to be vulnerable. And I grew up in Texas with sayings like, suck it up and get her done and hide your crazy and be a lady. Like, you just put a smile on your face and pretend like nothing's wrong. And I tried to stuff it down, and it worked until it didn't. And it was like pushing down on a springboard, and eventually it shot up. My life came crumbling down. And one day I thought, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of feeling like this. And I realized I had really gone in a dark place in every way. Now, they call it the suicide disease because I had survived this horrific, catastrophic accident only to slowly be killing myself with my lifestyle. When I had tried all these treatments, I'd done ketamine infusions, I had a spinal stimulator, I had Eastern Western medicine. At one point, I was on 73 homeopathic pills and 11 different prescription medications, and nothing was working. I started drinking every day, and I thought, how did a good girl like me end up like this? And thank goodness for my daughters, and thank goodness that I'm someone of faith, and I prayed. I thought, I want to set an example for my daughters of someone who is the victor of their life and not the victim. And that really took being in radical acceptance. I could not stuff it down, numb it out. I had to slowly embrace the pain, as much as it was hard and it hurt. And it was really the beginning of my healing, transformation, my recovery. And I think that the beginning of any kind of transformation, whether that's in business, whether that's personal, whether it's professional, it starts with really self-awareness and taking radical acceptance of where you are. And I had to take a look at my part in it, all the unhealthy things that I was doing. And so when I was in acceptance, and sometimes I think that, a lot of people say self-love, and I think that self-acceptance and self-love go hand in hand, because when I was finally able to be in acceptance, I started to be able to love myself a little more, because I hated myself. I hated the way that I looked. I hated my leg. I was embarrassed and ashamed of all my scars. And sometimes I think it helps when we have someone around us that can believe in us a little bit and love us a little bit until we can love ourselves. And it was the doctor who saved my leg, who actually is the person who got me to start loving my leg and look at it a little differently. I had gone into him, and after all these surgeries to save it, I was like, I have the best solution here. We can just amputate my leg. It gives me too much pain. It's
Oh,
damaged,
God.
it's scarred up. Let's just cut it off. And he said, that's not an option for you. He's like, you have CRPS, and that could make it worse if we amputate it. And it really, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, wow, this is really the rest of my life. And so it's up to me to choose whether I'm going to keep spiraling down into a place where I don't know if I would have survived the way that I was going, or I can choose to thrive, choose to really get a grip on my mindset, start to accept myself and love myself a little bit more every day. And when I started to talk about it with people that I trusted, and then even started to talk about it on social media, I realized I'm not going through this alone. There are other people that feel the same way. And I think that we aren't meant to go through hard things alone. Yeah, we're wired for, all kinds of tragic events, but we are wired for connection. And when we can lean on others and they can lean on us, and we realize we're not alone, that builds our hope, it builds our resilience. And that connection and knowing that I'm not alone is what has really helped me get through some tough times. And so that radical acceptance, really being able to shift your perspective, and the easiest way to do that, I think, is with gratitude. And I have to tell you, and I'm sorry, this is a long answer for this, but it's easy to look on social media or see people and think that their life is good and they've got it all figured out. And I don't know if any of us have it all figured out. We're just learning as we go. And I shift my perspective with gratitude every day. And this morning I woke up and I was not feeling great. I don't know about you, but I have that inner critic I started beating myself up right away. Like, who do you think you are, Amberly, to get to go and speak with Christina? Like, are you going to who are you going to say anything that somebody needs to hear? Like, those are the thoughts going through my head. And instead of saying that, I was like, no, I am so grateful that I get to see her beautiful face and talk to her again and connect with her community. This is an honor. And so the minute we start to have those feelings of anxiety or unworthiness or pain, I'm telling you, gratitude is alchemy. It really shifts what we can't do into what we can do, and what we don't have into what we do have. And so I can't wait to read some of the comments to see if anybody has questions.
Well, we'll have the questions in the Q&A so that you guys can actually come and ask a question. But I do want to ask you to maybe if something touches you, can you leave some emojis? Because text is cool, but when you're speaking, you can't really read text. But emojis are so vivid, and I really love in this kind of format to see people leaving hearts or fires or whatever speaks to you. So don't shun emojis. They do help, because otherwise Amberly can only see my face. Thank you, by the way, for the kind words. And the question that I was thinking as you were talking, it might be a little, I do not know if you've thought about that, but obviously that experience must have changed you in many ways. Did it somehow change your identity, the way you perceive yourself? Because obviously you have been a very fiery person, like full of life and full of love of life all this time. And looking at you on Instagram, you still are. You do so many amazing things. I love your feed. It's full of life. So, but
Oh,
did
thank
this
you.
somehow shift your identity, your perception of who you are as a human? I know it happened. It happened like 11, you said, right, years ago. So you
Oh, yeah.
must
And
have achieved by then already quite a bit.
well, you know what? I have to say, you know, for about 4 years, I was in and out of surgery, in and out of the hospital. And I was so caught up in my identity being, I'm the fitness girl. I am sponsored by Nike. I do fitness videos. I was known for, having these strong legs. I did Muay Thai. I did Krav Maga. Everything was about fitness. And my whole life, I had earned my living um, through dancing and fitness. And before that, my joy and my self-worth came from winning races. I was asked to do, I'll never forget, I was asked to do this marathon where I was one of the legs. So we had 5 people run this Jimmy Stewart marathon. And the guys wanted me on their team. Well, first of all, because they got like they got a lead if they had a girl on their team. But I was used to like competing and winning, and I was the fastest on that leg. And now I couldn't even get out of bed. I went from that person to laying in a hospital bed with bed sores, and I'd lost about 20 pounds of muscle, and I looked like I had gone through a war. And I remember one of my friends that I worked with, she came over to the house and we had my hospital bed in the living room, and she said, well, what are you going to do now? You can't be a trainer. And I just burst into tears. And I was like, what do you mean I can't be a trainer? And obviously I looked like I couldn't be a trainer, but I was like, it hadn't hit me until then. And then I tried so hard to get back to my old life. And resilience is, I'm going to say it again, because I know so many people and friends that I've talked to that say, well, I'm just going to wait till things get back to normal. I'm just going to wait until things get better. I was that person who was waiting for a cure for my nerve disease. I was waiting until, okay, when things get better, then I'll be able to be a trainer again. Then I'll be able to do the thing. I thought, there's no waiting. There may never be a cure for my disease. Things may never go back to normal. I may be in pain for the rest of my life, but we can't always control the circumstances that come our way, or how things shift. And so I think that deep down, if we take a look at what brings us joy, what lights us up, how we love, how we connect with other people, that's who we are. It's not what we do, it's how we love and how we connect and how we collaborate. I think that is how I like to describe my identity now. And it's the mom that I am and the wife that I am and how I am in those relationships. And so I think that when I was deciding, well, who am I now? I had to go back and think, well, what brings me joy? So if there's anybody listening and you're like, well, I don't know what my calling is, or maybe you've lost your job, or maybe you're trying to figure out your identity, I would say go back to the time when you were a child, when you were 7, 8, 9 years old, and that thing that really lit you up and brought you joy. And for me, that time in my life was the time every Friday night when, after the football games in this small town in Texas, I would go with all the football players, the whole team, the cheerleaders, the band, and we would go to Dairy Queen, and I would dance on the tabletop. They would turn on the jukebox and I'd dance, and I would see how the people there, it would light them up with joy to see me just being free and so it made me want to dance more. And so everywhere I'd go, people would say, can you do a tap dance for us? And so now, what I still like showing people, I don't dance on tabletops anymore,
I
but
was just about to ask, do you still dance on tabletops?
well, I would. It is fun still, but being able to go on a stage or in a mastermind or in a group coaching call or this right here, and showing people that, yeah, things come up, tragedy may come, and sometimes we're in those moments and we're not sure how there can be a blessing or a lesson in those moments, but there's always a blessing and a lesson, and we just have to look for the positive in those situations. I'm not saying ignore the negative, but we can experience pain and joy, and we have the ability to build on the joy and focus on that joy even more. And so, although I'm not dancing on tabletops anymore, still that joy that I get from being with others and seeing how that light come on in them and fanning their flames, and that still brings me joy. So I would go back, and think about what you did when you were a kid that brought you such joy. And I'm sure it's connected to your purpose or your calling now.
Mm. Of course, I have 10 more questions I would like to ask in that direction, but I have to be mindful of time. And I want to ask to shift the conversation in a little bit different direction. You have a 5-step methodology, right? Uh, I actually can't remember the name. I'm
Oh, it's,
sorry.
well, you know what? It's, I thought, I had a friend of mine,
Yeah.
Christina, I had a friend that was like, Amberly, how are you able to travel and get on a plane and get out of your wheelchair and and do these events and all these things? We were leaving an event and she was asking me this question: how are you able to do this when there are a lot of people that have a tough time that just getting out of bed, or and I've been there. um I said, well, it's resilience. It's every day. It's practicing. She goes, well, what are the things that you do? And I really thought about what are the things that I do. And I got home from that event and my husband could see I was pretty tired. And he goes, you need to pace yourself. And I was like, I don't know, when somebody tells me to pace myself or when somebody tells me to calm down, it kind of does the opposite for me.
Yeah.
but I really thought about what it is that I do. And I thought, I got a dinner napkin and I started writing down everything I do throughout the day. And we've talked about some of these things already, but I need a quick reminder sometimes. Like, I need something to snap me out of my anxiety or my fear or my depression, or stop me from spiraling down further into beating up myself with my inner critic. And so I came up with this word pacer, and
Mhm.
it stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And perspective is the quickest way to feel better about your situation, and to shift your mindset is to get in gratitude. And we talked about a little bit about this earlier, but with gratitude, I don't just write something down every day. In fact, I have an app that I use, and I'm not affiliated with this app in any way, or I don't get paid to talk about it, but it's what helps me connect with others. And it's called my spiritual toolkit. And I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And then I share it with, I call them my God squad. It's some of my sisters, who we have a group and we text each other. And there are days when I'm starting to have a little pity party, and I read what my God squad has written. And one of my friends wrote, she was grateful that it was the last day of her chemo treatment for cancer. And she was grateful that it was her last day of chemo. And I thought, wow, yeah, my leg hurts, but I can walk. I mean, I'm not going through cancer treatments. So when you share that gratitude, it multiplies, it gives you an abundant life. The good just keeps getting better. And it really is the quickest and easiest way to shift your mindset. And acceptance is, every day taking a look at what's going on in my life, getting clear on your intentions, asking yourself, like, how's that working for you? Like, everything we do, every person that we talk to, everything that we eat, every decision that we make is either hurting us or helping us. It's either
Mhm.
pushing us closer to our goals or further away. But when we're in acceptance, again, it's the first step into any transformational journey. And it's not easy, but it's possible. And it's really led me to a community of like minded people. And I'm so grateful that we met. And that community is the next part of Pacer, and it might be the most important part. And I know that community is important to you because I'm blown away what you've done with Mind Valley. I was just talking about you and all that you've done and the lives that you've touched. And community, just knowing that we're not alone is powerful, because it takes endurance to get through tough times and challenges. And that's the next part of Pacer's endurance. And that is really where your grit comes in. And that's where your passion and perseverance. And if we focus on our why, because there's so many times when it's can be hard being an entrepreneur and a mom and a wife and doing a lot of things. But if we tap into why we're doing it, we can get through almost any how. And so when I'm feeling, we won't always be motivated. When I'm feeling tired or exhausted, honestly, or starting to feel burnout, I focus on my why. I focus on the reasons why. And when I have fear, when I was scared about writing my book, like who is going to want to read my book? I focused on my why and I let my passion outweigh my fear. And that's how I got through those moments every day, one day at a time, one step at a time. And that's how we start to build our confidence and our courage. And I'm good at the grit. I'm not so good at this last part of Pacer, and it stands for rest. And in fact, I was sharing this with my husband when I first came up with Pacer. And he's like, yeah, you do all these things. And I got to the last part, which was rest. And he's like, you are so full of it. You don't rest. And I was like, well, I'm learning how to do that. But I really feel like I've had to unlearn what I had so ingrained in me as an athlete and a dancer, which was resting meant quitting. And resting doesn't mean quitting. It means that we're refueling and replenishing ourselves. And if we really want to be resilient, we have to strategically stop. We have to plan times in our day. And I write down times in my day that I'm going to rest. And this is the first time ever that my 2022 is I've actually planned out my year where I'm going to have a whole week off. It's crazy. My husband still doesn't believe me, but I'm taking a whole week off for the summer, and I'm taking a whole week off around December for the holidays. And I think when we can give ourselves permission to rest, it gives ourselves permission to thrive. And something that's helped me with that is I'm looking at rest is it's a part of my strategic business plan for being more resilient. And so if I think of it that way, I think of, yes, I am resting so I can do even more in my business.
You mentioned that word. You mentioned the word that rest in sports community is equals to quitting. And also when you were talking about acceptance, I recently at one of the interviews, somebody mentioned that connection, that people are afraid that acceptance is in a way like quitting, like giving up. So what's the difference between actually acceptance and quitting?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's such a good question, because I thought acceptance, and one of the reasons I didn't want to accept that I was diagnosed with this nerve disease. I didn't want to accept or even look at my scarred up leg, was because it made me feel defeated until I shifted the way I played that soundtrack in my head. And now I look at acceptance as freedom, because when you're in acceptance, it just is acknowledging where you are, and it allows you to take steps in the right direction and make your life even better. But if we don't look at something and we're ignoring it, if we're not admitting to ourselves that we've got a problem, how can we fix it? And I will just touch on this too. One of the hardest things for me to accept. So number one, it was hard to accept the way that I looked. And my doctor was the one who helped me with that. He looked at my leg and like it was a masterpiece. And when he did that, I thought, wow, he's looking at my leg like it's a masterpiece. Maybe I can learn to love it and look at it like that too. And so I started going, wow, I'm so grateful that I have this leg that holds me up, that it's healing the way that that it's healing. But one of the hardest things that was for me to accept was that I wasn't making healthy choices, and that was on me. And I was drinking wine every day to cope, to numb out. And until I knew, like I knew in my heart, I knew in my gut, in my whole being, in my soul, that that was not the right thing to do. I mean, I had been so healthy, and there was a lot of shame that came along with that, to go from this fitness instructor to now I'm drinking wine every day. And so I actually got sober in 2016, and I could not have done that if I didn't first take a look at how I was destroying my life. And if I didn't reach out and ask for help. And that was one of the scariest and hardest things I ever did, was to admit that I had a problem and reach out and ask for help. There was so much shame around that. But when we shine a light on shame, whether it's something that is a unhealthy habit, or the way that we look, with all my scars, when I started to accept that and be proud of my leg and started to wear shorts again, I felt empowered. It took a little bit of time, but now I am so proud that I made it through all these surgeries, and that I have the ability to chase after my kids if I need to. um, and that I can work out, and that I can, like today, I got out of bed, and I was telling you, I was having a little bit of a pity party this morning, and just not feeling great. And I took a step and my foot cracked, and it reminded me, that big pop, it reminded me of, Amberly, you got out of bed. You can walk. For so long,
Mhm.
I couldn't even get out of bed to use the bathroom on my own. And so I don't think of acceptance as being defeated. I think of it's the beginning of a new journey. And I don't think that resting is quitting. I think that resting is really teaching our children that we are resilient and we're taking care of ourselves. It's teaching others that it's okay to rest, because as an entrepreneur, there's this mindset, and you see it all over social media, of hustle, hustle, hustle. Well, you know what? I did that, and I ran myself into the ground. Right before COVID, I was in the ER 6 different times from infections,
Wow.
from just running myself ragged. And it took the doctor telling me, hey, look, what's going on with you? This is the 6th time this year that you've been in the ER for an infection. And I heard her, but it wasn't until I kept pushing and I ended up in ICU for an infection. I went septic, and I had a doctor say, if you would have waited one more day, you would have died. And that really scared me. That really scared me. And I thought, this is life or death. I mean, we sometimes think we're invincible, we take things for granted. But if we don't listen to our body, if we don't accept what's going on in our world, and really ask for help and do everything we can to get better mentally, spiritually, physically, in every way, um, we're going to hit roadblocks. It's going to be tough. But if we shift our perspective, if we have acceptance, we reach out in our community, we have that grit, that endurance. If we rest, we
Mm.
can be resilient. And so that's why this isn't something that I just teach and say that my life is perfect. My life is so imperfect. I still struggle. I still work every day on trying to be resilient. And it's like a muscle. It's like going to the gym. We got to show up for ourselves. We got to show up and do the work. And it's, you know what? It's hard to do all these things sometimes. It's hard to meditate. It's hard to write in a gratitude journal. It's hard to read. It's hard to listen to inspiring podcasts, but it's a heck of a lot better than living a life of despair.
I have other questions too, but I'll ask an easy question. Emily, can you tell me about your book? Not me, just the whole.
Yes, yes. I'd love to tell you about the book. It's called True Grit and Grace. And I really wrote it as a call to resilience, as a call to anyone who might be struggling with a life challenge. I talk about everything from overcoming the shame of sexual abuse as a child, to divorce, to getting through some of the hardest moments in my life, of reinventing myself. And I'll just say, uh, you know, I I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm completely reinventing my career and myself, and I'm maybe too old for this, or I'm not smart enough. I wrote 90% of my book on a notebook, just like this. I still write on these old school notebooks. I didn't own a computer. I did not have a lot of people that believed in me that I was going to be able to write a book. And that when you have, someone telling you you can't do something, let that be your biggest motivation. When I had people go, oh, yeah, right, you want to write a book? I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to write a book now. And so, I bought a laptop, I typed it up, got a publisher. And you know what? I think that I think there's like 81% of people who want to write a book. This is your sign right now to write a book. If I can write a book, you can write a book. You just apply the pacer method to get your resilience to write every day. And I'm telling you, never know where that journey can lead you. Your story matters, your message matters. Your story, your message, your journey could be someone else's roadmap, somebody's way, their hope to get to where they need to go. So I will just say also that I could see in the chat that people are like, what does this stand for in Pacer? And I just want to say, you guys, I created a downloadable. I try to create as many free resources as possible because I really want you to take this tool and run with it and apply it into your life. So if you text me, just text the word grit, GRIT, to 818-214-7378. You'll get that free download. Because I really want you to be resilient. I want you to go after your dreams. And if there's anything that I can do to help you do that, I'm here for you. So you can text me just to say hi too. But yeah, and the book True Grit and Grace has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. But the best thing about it is the connections that I've made along the way. Like, I am so grateful to connect with you, Christina, and I love just getting to know you more. I love that our daughters love horses and just the whole community that you've built. So that's been the best part of the book journey.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you've noticed we have a guest joining us.
Hi.
So, Sloan, I don't know how to
Good
pronounce it.
morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Hi, Christina.
I'm passing
Hi,
the
Amberly.
microphone to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, Christina, thank you for having Amberly. Amberly, um, thank you for sharing. I'm actually in my late 50s, transitioning out of a 31-year career, and I'm kind of going through the imposter syndrome. And you kind of glazed over that. You didn't use that word, but I kind of felt that you may have had some of that. Maybe even this morning you were talking
Still
about.
do.
I know, right? And I have, I guess my question to you is that, I feel like I am resilient. I feel like I can do anything, but I do still associate with a very competitive, snippy type community. And I'm trying to, rise above that, be professional, but I don't know how to just get on with it. Just do it, right? Write the book. I just finished a hollow body coaching certification. I'm just thrilled with that, but I don't know how to transition. And I think just listening to you is a good reminder. You did it in bed after 34 surgeries. And
Mm-hmm.
so that shoulder to shoulder with you is very important this morning. So thank you. And what is your quick advice on just powering through that and getting over the people and voices in your head of just saying, are you sure? You sure?
Yeah. Oh,
You have
such a
something
good.
good. Why would you want to change what you have? It's already good. That's what I have. So.
Yeah, it's scary when you jump out of your comfort zone, but that's where the magic happens. And congratulations. I am over here fanning your flames because it's amazing. And I of course, I get the imposter syndrome. I still do. And I think that one thing there's a couple of things I'll share with you, but what's helped me so much is don't do it alone. It can be I just went and saw a couple of my friends who are like fellow podcasters and entrepreneurs, and we connect every once in a while. We just get together and brainstorm. And we all were like, it can get lonely as an entrepreneur. You look, all of a sudden you've been in your office for 8 hours and you're writing and your world gets kind of small. So don't do it alone. Make it a point to reach out to people. But also, I would say, not just, we all know, look at who you're surrounding yourself with. That's important. But if you, my mistake was when I started writing my book, I was telling a few close family members and friends, and they were like, you are crazy. Who do you think you are to write that book? I already knew that. I had that. My inner critic was telling me that. I didn't need somebody to tell me that, but go to the people and get for counsel, not opinion. And how you do that is go to people to ask them questions who've already done what you want to do. They've already paved their way to success. So instead of going to the people who'd never written a book, I then went to the best teacher in Los Angeles, California, who taught people how to write books. And I took his class. It was scary as hell. It was so scary because with my work schedule and with my daughter's school, I couldn't go to the beginner class. So he let me go to the advanced class. So I was in a class with published poets, screenplay writers, best-selling authors, and then me. And when I had to read my assignment in front of everybody in class, my hands were shaking. The paper, I sat down and cried after I read it. And he said, his name's Jack Grapes. He's amazing. And he said, Amberly, why did you take my class? And I said out loud in front of the whole class, because I want to write a book. And he said, well, let me tell you something. And I thought, oh gosh, here it comes. He said, you will write a book. He said, because what you just read, he said, you may have been intimidated when you came in here by all these people, but after hearing what you just wrote, you will intimidate. All these people are intimidated by you. Not that I wanted to intimidate anyone, but just him believing in me and telling me that I would write a book was my encouragement that kept me to keep going.
Sure.
Hire your weaknesses, focus on your strengths. Don't focus on the whole book. Focus on your intention and what you want to do, and making sure you do one step at a time. I would break things off into these tiny, very small, accomplishable, if that's that word. Is that a word? I can't talk.
I liked it.
Goals,
I'm speaking your language. Yeah.
Goals. And that way I could do it. And it was similar to learning how to walk again. If I would have focused on, I got to run a marathon, the marathon, I would have never gotten out of bed. But I literally focused on being able to lift my leg up, because I couldn't even move my leg at first. To my next goal was, I just want to be able to use the bathroom on my own and get rid of this stinking bedpan. So my goal was, I just want to be able to stand up for moments at a time. Then my goal was, I just want to be able to use my crutches and get to the hallway. And so when you break things up into these attainable goals, then you're able to, it doesn't look so scary. And when you're not doing it alone, when you're seeking counsel, not opinion, and making sure you are setting boundaries. I know we can't always get rid of the people in our lives that are telling us we can't do something. Let that inspire you, but also set healthy boundaries so you don't have to spend as much time with them. And I think that's important to remember, especially around the holidays, like set those healthy boundaries. We teach people how to treat us.
Yeah. Counsel, not opinion. I love that. That's my biggest takeaway, besides your amazing journey. So thank you. I'll start following you, and I'll take this ride with you. So thank you.
I am happy to be on this ride, and I can't wait to see all that you do and read your book. So please let me know. And y'all, I know I didn't think about, there's so many people joining from all over, and they might not be able to text me. So you can email me as well. Just email me at amberly@amberlylago.com. And I'm happy to send you that Pacer playbook. Anything I can do to support you. I want you to be able to, or you can reach out on Instagram. That might be easier. Just shoot me a DM. And Sloan, definitely, I'm so excited for you. And thank you for asking that question. We got to nip that impostor syndrome in the bud, man. It's like,
thank you so much, Sloan, for asking your question. And I'm about to publish my book, my first book, and I really love what Amberly just said about asking for sorry, the screen flickered and I lost my thought, but asking for counsel and not opinion. I think a huge help for me was one Estonian publisher, and we just happened to chat, and I mentioned my book, and I was so I was so ashamed, and I just asked him if he could help me to publish, because the process is just technically complex if you're not in that area. And then when he told me, when he told me, and when are you going to translate it into Estonian? And I want to publish it in Estonian. I think I'll make it into a bestseller. That was really in this journey, because writing a book is not it's not just any job. It's an emotional journey. But that one suggestion, I was just like you. I was thinking, oh my God, if he believes in me, that's already something. So thank you for your story. I feel like it's so relatable. Unfortunately, we have to be finishing soon.
Oh, I know. I love talking to you. I could talk to you all day.
I agree. It's such a pleasure, and I wish we had more flexible time. But here on this stage, we have to be mindful of time. So I'm going to ask traditionally those who are. And now I can see that questions are coming, but you guys are too late. So we don't have time for questions, but we have time for hearts. So I want to ask those who are right now on this call to leave a heart for my wonderful guests. For those who are going to be watching it in recording, leave a heart in the comments below under the video. And Amberly, I want to ask you just some last parting advice, well, to this group, this class, like, I don't know, something one to carry away from this meeting, from this time together.
Oh, I would just say, I think really that what's coming up for me more than ever is, we'll always have each moment of our career, of our journey, we'll have moments where we level up and get to and that will come along with some roadblocks and some anxiety, maybe some self-doubt, some fear. And I think that it's so important to every day really spend some time focusing on who you are, what you want, what your values are, so you can make decisions, so you can start to believe in yourself. And I think what just came to mind is you're never too old, you're never too young, you're never too dumb. I thought all those things, like I thought I'm too dumb, I don't even own a computer. And reach out to those who've done it before you and ask for help along the way. And you have everything that you need within you. You just have to figure out how to tap into that resilience, do things that keep that light inside you burning bright. And just remember to keep moving forward. And resilience is about, being creative, thinking of new ways to do things. And I'll tell you one last story this isn't just about me. It's about my daughter too. We were just hit by a car. I know some of you are probably thinking, oh my gosh, you need to look both ways. Maybe that'll be the name of my next book, Look Both Ways. But we were hit by a car. And when I was in the back of the ambulance, my daughter's on a gurney and I'm in there with her. My first thought wasn't like, why me? Why did this happen? My thought was, what can I learn from this? And what can I do next? And luckily her CAT scan came back. We were let out of the hospital 5 hours later. The whole time I was filled with gratitude that it wasn't worse. And she could feel that. And the doctors and nurses around us could feel it. We left that hospital and we're walking out. And my daughter looks at me and she says, Mama, we were rolled in here on a gurney and we are walking out like champions. And I could feel the gratitude in her. And so your resilience causes a ripple effect around those. It affects the way we love, the way we lead, our family, our friends. And so I hope that you'll use Pacer to tap into your resilience and thrive and reach out to me and say hello too. So I'm just so honored to be here with you, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. And guys, really just follow Amberly, get her book, get her Pacer. It's been a pleasure to have you, really. Thank you for your experience, for your journey, for sharing it with all of us. And yeah, you have you have a good, amazing mission, and yeah, I wish you all the love, the luck, and the happiness that there is. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I'm moving to Dallas in a few weeks. So if you're ever in Dallas, you've got a place to stay. Maybe our daughters can horseback ride together. But thank y'all. Thanks so much for joining. I love your questions. And I think it's in the chat how to reach me. So thank y'all so much.
So thank you everyone for being here with us. And I hope to see you in a week. I believe so. And bye-bye. Thank you all.
Thank you.